In our book, The Prosperity Paradox, How Innovation Can Lift Nations Out of Poverty, sort of one of the biggest ideas in it is that we actually don't get to fix poverty and create prosperity by obsessing and trying our best to fix poverty. And that is by trying to fix the visible signs of poverty, poor infrastructure, poor roads, ports, or schools, hospitals, and so on. Instead, the way we get to fixing poverty and creating prosperity is by investing in a type of innovation we call market-creating innovation. Even when the society or the circumstance doesn't look like it can absorb those types of innovations, but that's actually how we get to creating prosperity. You know, the word innovation means so many different things to different people. And so what we've tried to do in our work is be very specific about what we mean when we say innovation. And market creating innovations in particular are innovations that transform complicated and expensive products into products that are simple and affordable, so that many more people in society can have access to them. These innovations, by virtue of the fact that they target many more people in society, not only do they make those people more productive, but organizations that invest in them they need many more people to make the products, to sell the product, service the product, market the product. And so with market creating innovations, you begin to see the foundations of sustainable and long-term economic development happen in a region. Yeah, there are many examples of market creating innovations that I can give. If it's okay, I would love to give two. So the first example is one that many people are familiar with. So if you think about the proliferation of mobile phones all across Africa and certainly emerging markets, these were devices 20 years ago that were complicated and expensive. Many people, even in wealthier countries, didn't have access to them. But by implementing a different business model in emerging markets in low and middle income countries, the average person on the street is now able to own a mobile phone. I think that example illustrates how market creating innovations can have such a significant impact on economic development. In Africa alone, that industry now supports close to 4 million jobs, generates roughly $15 or so billion of revenue, tax revenue for governments every year, and is estimated to be worth about $200 or so billion. And so you begin to get an idea of the kind of impact market creating innovations can have when you democratize access. A different example that I'd love to give is one that's sort of in the financial services industry. So insurance. So if you think about insurance, it's a product that is mostly accessible to wealthy individuals, wealthy people. If you look at sort of the breakdown of the insurance markets across the world, the OECD countries essentially have most of the premiums is where they're paid. And Africa, even if it's about 15 or so % of global population, the insurance market is less than 2% of the global insurance market. And so how do you begin to think about insurance and democratizing that product or that service to over 1 billion people? Well, a company by the name of MicroInsure has figured out an inexpensive way to provide insurance to people through their mobile phone subscriptions. And by reinventing and rethinking the business model of insurance, they've been able to create an insurance product that now has over 60 million customers on their platform. And I think rethinking the business model of certain products and services that are already available to many people, but for whom most people in emerging markets, in low and middle income countries, can access, rethinking how we provide those products is key to helping us create market-creating innovations. There's a question we often get about, the link between innovation and taxes and infrastructure, and how does that play out? And I think the way to answer that is when a new innovation comes into a region and creates a new market, it essentially empowers a lot of new users. It creates value for a lot of new users. And so that society, by that measure, becomes more productive. Revenues are generated by the companies that provide these innovations. Jobs are created by the people who work at those companies. And so there are direct and indirect impacts. Now, in the event that all those people pay taxes, those taxes ultimately will go to governments. And the idea or the hope is that those governments would use those monies to improve the lives of people in those regions. Now, specifically, when we look at some types of innovations, say mobile money, for instance, right? Mobile money is an amazing innovation because it really helps people who don't have an infrastructure in how to send or receive money to get one, and it makes it a lot easier. But when you step back and think about mobile money specifically, mobile money really is what we would call an efficiency innovation. It helps me send or receive money more efficiently. And so someone who did not have any money at all, it doesn't really matter the kind of mobile money access you give them. If they didn't have money on Monday and they all of a sudden have access to transfer money on Tuesday, they're still not going to have money. And so with efficiency innovations that affect a massive amount of people, you may get some pushback, right, from citizens on those types of innovations getting heavily taxed. But when innovations are creating entirely new value for people, when it's not just making what they have a little bit more efficient, then you can see that many people would be happy to pay taxes, or at least as happy as you can be paying taxes. That was a long answer, but I think it's a brilliant question, because I think I've always struggled with mobile money, not because it's not valuable, but because I think there's a lot of value placed on it, which at the end of the day, when you take a step back and look at it for what it is, we're asking it to do a lot more than it really can, right? If I have $100 in my mattress, I can be more efficient with that. But if I didn't have $100, if I didn't have any money, and now I have access to this mobile money platform, I mean, my life may not change much at all. It probably wouldn't, right? So I think it was a brilliant question.